Hi everyone, welcome back to Bookbacht. I'm your host Booktuber and I do book reviews. Today we're discussing, cutting right to the chase, Train to Pakistan by Khushwant Singh. I came across this entirely by chance. I was actually looking for something else and I sort of got intrigued by it. So opening remarks, it's beautiful post-colonial work published in 1956. It has a lot of, I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, but it has a lot of analogies which it uses to describe certain phenomena. You'll find that the tone is it's never morose. It's never kind of obvious. It tells you a lot about, there is a backdrop of violence and racial hate and all of that, but it never directly leads you to it. It sort of allows you to build the picture up, yourself in your head, and the tone still retains a kind of heartwarming feel. So opening remarks, in my opinion, it's a beautiful work, written beautifully, lovely characters, I'll be getting to that. It's a winner in my mind. Now, an example of the analogies that I was mentioning before, it sort of starts off with saying that the summer of 1947 was warmer and more, was more unbearable than any summer that had preceded it, because obviously the mass exodus took place in the summer of 1947. So it sort of tells you, uses a metaphor of how even the weather was altered by the events of partition. So it catches your interest right away, and the story is placed sort of in a fictional village of Manu Majra, in which three communities, namely the Hindus, the Sikhs and the Muslims, have been living in relative peace and harmony and a lot of love for many centuries, till it sort of all stopped short when a ghost train arrives in the village station. By ghost train it means that it's chock full of dead bodies, and that sort of obviously turns the sentiments, and it also brings, it's kind of like the village, in my opinion, is kind of like in the writer's mind, is sort of a utopia which is kind of invaded by surrounding chaos, and the hate and all those things sort of seep into this fictional utopia, and that's what happens. Now into this we have the interplay of many conflicting characters. I'm not going to go into detail for every single one of them, but I'm going to sort of run you through a few which I found were very really nice. I would start off with Juga, who's also known as Jugat Singh, and he's kind of, he's everything that you would expect a hero not to be. He's the perfect anti-hero. He's an ex-dacoit. He's got this really notorious past, and he's continually kind of humiliated by the village people. But and then he's obviously this well-built man of 6 foot something. But and his, obviously his exterior is very rough, and it's kind of, he's not just rough around the edges. He's just he's kind of really, he looks like a brute. But inside he's kind of, he's heroic, and he's lovely, and he's brave, and many of his habits have been overturned by his lasting love for a Muslim girl called Nooran. So obviously he's the perfect kind of paradox, I found, and I really liked him, and he was my favorite. Then you have Hukum Chand, who's the village magistrate, and he's obviously, he starts off as being a degenerate and everything, but then he's ultimately redeemed by saving hundreds of people, and you have a lot of smaller characters that are interesting. The other one that I found really interesting was Iqbal, who's kind of, you don't really, I think he was just added in for a bit of comic relief, because he's kind of like the quintessential, Angrezi Babu. He eats fish and crackers from tins, and he dresses like the English, and he never tells anyone which religion he belongs to. He just he keeps changing it depending on who asks him, because he just wants to fit in. But obviously he sticks out like a sore thumb, because he's very educated by the village standards, and he speaks English and everything, so he stands out, and without meaning to, almost. And so yeah, the purpose of his being in the village is also pretty suspect. You don't know why he's there, so he's a pretty interesting one. This review is by all means going to be a little short, because the book itself is, I think, 157 pages. I mean, let me double check. Yeah, 157. It's so vastly entertaining. I really loved it. It's not very often that I like a writer's style extremely. I'll often like it halfway, or I mean, it's not often that I think something is truly different and truly told in a style which is very kind of amazing. So obviously this the writer is very successful in kind of bringing together of polar opposites. On one hand you've got the harrowing themes which obviously everyone knows about, but on the other hand you have love and brotherhood, and your forbidden love, and you have a sense of kinship. So he brings these together very well, which in literature is not the easiest thing to do. I've been a writer for some 8-9 years, and it is a difficult thing to bring to fruition. Now, he leaves room to dream. I'm not going to tell you the end because I want you to read it, but he leaves a lot of room to dream. He leaves a realm of possibility for the reader. So definitely check this one out. Fully approved. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this short episode that I decided to film today. Nowadays I'm actually, nowadays I'm reading Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca, which I'm really enjoying, and I'm also simultaneously, I like to read two at the same time. Typically they tend to be fiction and non-fiction, but I just picked up these two and I couldn't wait. So the second one is Milkman by Anna Burns. I'll probably be reviewing both of these. Let me know what you're reading nowadays, leave it in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.